Those of you that don't know me, I'm the guy on the right. My name is Dave Lucas, and with me is my good friend and business partner, PhD, global entrepreneur, best-selling author, and co-founder of the Personal Growth Hall of Fame, Evan Money.
Hey, thanks for the intro, Dave. And yes, for you guys who are wondering, we'll get to this right up front, kind of the bald elephant in the room. My real last name is Money. That is true. But I certainly wasn't born with any. And in fact, in my teen years, early 20s, and especially when I started my first company, money was a very scarce item. I'm sure some of you can agree. And you've been there. And I always seemed to have more month than money. You know, and I know some of you have been there before, but on a personal side, my bride and I are best known for getting remarried in a different state or country every year. So to this date, I have been married 23 times. And guys and gals, I'm here to tell you, the sex is fantastic. But what I'm most excited about today is to give you the missing link, or as my first mentor, Jim Rohn, said, the final numbers to unlock all of your dreams and goals. And you may already have, most of you may already have the first set of numbers already plugged in. So you just need the one or two more to finally reach that next level that you've been dreaming of and trying to get to for so long. And the one thing I know for sure is that teamwork makes the dream work. And that's why I'm so honored to be partnering with the legendary Dave Lucas today. I mean, just look at that hairline. I mean, the guy's amazing. But we are so aligned in our personal lives and business, yet we see things from totally different perspectives. And that's perfect for all of you on this call, is because you can get the full picture and really fast forward your success. So let me tell you briefly how amazing Dave is. He has a wildly successful podcast called The Misfit Entrepreneur. And the second I heard that and got invited to be on his show, I was like, I'm in, because that is so me. He's a successful husband, father, an incredible businessman. And he is still successfully scaling companies and working with some of the biggest Fortune 100s in the world. And that's really what I like best about Dave, is because he's still actively building his business. So his insights are fresh and cutting edge. And whatever Dave says, you can take to the bank. So Dave, let's tell him what we have in store today.
Absolutely, Evan. And before we do, though, we should talk a little bit about how this came to be. Like, why are we even doing this in the first place? So Evan and I have actually been prepping for a one-of-a-kind event we're holding called Grow, Thrive, and Revive at the end of February coming up. And, you know, the event's limited to only 25 attendees, and we know that some people just cannot even make it because of the timing and all that. So as we're going through prepping for this, we wanted to share some of the concepts and strategies that we are teaching at the event with our networks and our tribes. So we also want to do something fun, too, today, where we give one lucky entrepreneur attending this webinar a free ticket to come to the seminar portion of the event, no strings attached. So make sure you stay tuned to the end so that we can see who the winner is, and maybe it'll be you. So with that said, let's go over what you can expect from our time today. First, a very entertaining and impactful discussion. As you can see, Evan is a very animated guy. I always love doing stuff with him because it's fun, it's entertaining. But we're going to give you great content that you can start using in your lives, in your business today. Second, we're going to talk about the question, right? There is a question that's very important to anyone in their success, and we're going to actually start there today. And then the next thing we're going to talk about is the top 3 strategies for growing your business. So the top 3 things that you can jump in, start focusing on in your business to help yourself grow this year. And Evan's going to cover the balance lie, the home court advantage, and the trap that catches most business owners. And then I'm going to cover how to get more done, create more freedom, and take back control of your life. And then lastly, we'll do some Q&A and wrap things up. So let's start with the question. You've probably heard this a million times, but when's the last time that you sat back and truly, deeply had a discussion with yourself about what you want? You see, most people don't get what they want because they don't know what they want. And you've probably also heard about the importance of having clarity and the need to be crystal clear on your goals and what you want, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'll say this. There is absolute truth in the need for clarity. It does give you a better chance of success. And up until about a year ago, I was one of those that preached that being crystal clear on what you want was the most important thing to succeed above all else. But Then I actually took a step back and spent some time truly and deeply having a discussion with myself of what I wanted. And you know what? I came out more confused than I was before I started. And that really kind of leads to a dirty little secret, and it's what I call the clarity curse. And that curse is what happens when you spend so much time trying to get crystal clear on what you want to do that you never just do. You never act, you never take a step forward because you're waiting for everything to fall in line. So when I really got honest with myself and looked back at all the successes that I've had and the messages that I've heard in interviewing many of the highest performing people in their fields in the world, something actually did become very clear. And that's a truth that is, you're never going to have total clarity. No one ever does. But if you can just get clear on the direction that you want to go and have an idea of where you're headed, you can do amazing things. So when I look at the biggest secrets and the biggest breakthroughs that I've had and that I've heard others describe to me, they always came from a place where the person and myself, we actually didn't know exactly how we were going to do it, but we had a good direction and just kept going, innovating, and finding a way and making one. So we're going to start our time off with this today to give you that simple message. Wherever you are on your path to success, don't wait for everything to fall in line. Don't wait for everything to be crystal clear because, honestly, it never will. Instead, get somewhat clear and comfortable with a solid direction and then start heading towards it. Then you can adjust along the way. At some point over the next day or week, do this for yourself. Take some time and just check to make sure you know which direction you want to go, why you want to go there, and use that as a base to move forward. You'll be surprised, I'm telling you, at what you'll find out about yourself. So that leads us in, though, to the top 3 strategies for growing your business. So, Evan, you are up first, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Dave. So let's get right into focus, and this dovetails into exactly what you were saying about, hey, this is something we've heard before, because we all know the power of focus and how valuable it is. But the key is to focus on what's most valuable so we can thrive in our health, in our relationships, in our business. And Dave, I know you're going to give your perspective a little later, but the first thing I want to expose is compare-itis. And this is a disease that is rampant and running through every entrepreneur's. And the challenge with compare-itis is we focus so much on it, and all we get in return is pain. And so for me personally, I used to get anxiety after reading Fast Company magazine. You know, every article is about some 22-year-old who's scaling a billion-dollar company. And here I am only making tens of millions working from home. And I'm just like, oh. And it was a real issue for me because, of course, in the magazine, you know, they're painting certain pictures. And, of course, you know, in a 10-minute article, you don't get to see what's really going on behind the scenes, and it all looks glamorous. And, you know, you compare their highlight reel, you know, with your failures. And, of course, that, you know, increases the compare-itis. And so, again, this was a big challenge for me until I got some really great advice from NBA star Steph Curry. And he shared with me that when he was only making $10 million a year and winning NBA championships, now that's a low, that's severely underpaid in the NBA if you're a star player of his magnitude. So when he was only making $10 million a year, he said, Ev, I never got caught up in counting other people's money. And he also said, and if I started complaining about only making $10 million a year, you know, I had some other major problems. And so I was like, wow, how much focus have I been putting on counting other people's money, you know, or counting other people's stock? And the simple truth was, if I just use that energy to get better at what I did, imagine how much farther my business would be. Imagine how much better my relationships would be. So the one thing that I did, a real simple tool to help me focus in this area, is that I literally just unsubscribed to everyone's emails list that I was on, or should I say about 90%. Because so many of these, I just wanted to see what they were up to. Okay, what's so-and-so doing? What's this person doing? What's that person doing? What's this person doing? And all that did was fuel my compare-itis. So once I unsubscribed, it cleared so much mental energy. And the classic adage, I didn't know I had a headache till the pain stopped. And it was like, wow, once I had this clear mind, it was like, whoo, you know, I have so much now I can have time and energy to focus on the things that really matter. And another thing that really helped me in this area, and I know you guys are going to love this, is I started to collaborate instead of compare. That's right. I started to collaborate instead of compare. And I realized that if I could work with someone, then their success became my success in a way. So in the picture is legendary film composer Brian E. Miller's on the right, and then in the middle is #1 New York Times bestselling author Keith Ferrazzi of the classic Never Eat Alone. And so Keith is kind of the king of collaboration, so I figured he would be the perfect slide here. And one of my biggest collaborations was with none other than Joel Osteen. He started my groundbreaking documentary called Words of Art. And if you haven't seen that, little bonus and plug, if you're an Amazon Prime member, it's included with your membership. So you can watch it for free, or you can rent it for a few dollars. And I highly recommend it. The movie's title is Words of Art. But it made no sense to compare the size of Joel's email list to mine, or to compare Joel's hair to mine. I mean, but it did make sense to work with him. Now you may be thinking, well, gee, Al, that's great for you. You know, you have all these connections and, you know, da, 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 da. But the simple truth is, I cold called Joel Osteen. I started by calling 1-800-JOEL. And if I had more time, you know, I could go into the step-by-steps and how I did it and all that thing. But the important thing is, rather than compare his book deal with my book deals, I decided to collaborate instead.
Perfect, Evan. I always love it when you tell that story. You know, I learned focus the hard way. I am naturally a person who seeks out opportunity and loves to try new things, which can actually be a very bad thing for an undisciplined entrepreneur like I was in my younger days. I would try anything and take on anything. In fact, there was a point where I actually had 10 different businesses going at once. And then I did that because I had heard that 9 out of 10 businesses fail. So all that meant is I got to go start 10 businesses, right? Well, I did, and it almost killed me in working over 90 hours a week. And on top of that, I wasn't good really at any one of them. I was really a jack of all trades and a master of none. So I finally got to a breaking point and told myself I had to change. And thankfully, I received some education on the way the mind works, which I'll share in a second, and was able to use it to get myself out of trouble. I narrowed my focus, picking the top 2 ventures out of all of them that I was most passionate about and that I thought had the biggest value and opportunity. And so, you know, how about that? The 80-20 rule at work. We've all heard that before, right? And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the Create More Freedom section as well, because it is very important. But those 2 businesses are my 2 largest businesses today. And some of you I know who's on this webinar, you know, one of them is Grasp Technologies, which I built with my business partner, Eric Mueller, who's listening in. Hey, buddy, it's great to have you on. And it's been on the Inc. 5000 list 3 times. If I hadn't made those decisions, none of that would have ever happened. And so the lesson on focus that I have for you is that what you focus on grows in your life and becomes reality. And the more focused you are on something, the more successful you will be at it. Now, it sounds easy, but I bet all of you are nodding that it's not. And I would agree with you. We as entrepreneurs really have to discipline ourselves to focus and stay focused. And we have to be aware of the shiny object syndrome. And that really brings me to one last thing. And after hearing, you know, that story, a lot of you might be saying, well, what did you learn that helped you gain control over yourself and train yourself to do this? And that's what I want to share with you now. And it's BETAR. And it really stands for beliefs lead to your emotions lead to your thoughts, and your thoughts lead to your actions, and your actions lead to your results. And this is a simple little formula that's really the underpinning of everything as we as human beings do. And the striking thing that really came to me as I learned this is that when you take out all of the words in the middle, you get something very interesting, and that is your beliefs equal your results. What you believe will ultimately lead to your results, and the belief that you have about what you are focused will do the same. See, a good exercise that you can do after we're done today is to take a look at what you're focused on in your life, your business, and really decide if that's what you should be focused on. And then you can ask yourself what you believe about that. So what do you believe about how successful you can be? What do you believe about your business? What do you believe about yourself? What it is that you ultimately find out is what's actually driving the results in your life that you're getting. And if you don't like that, the great thing is that you can change your beliefs in any one of those areas, and you can watch the change happen to yourself. This topic's actually one of my favorites, something I keynote speak on a lot, and I could do a whole webinar on it, but it's a really good starting point for you to realize that your beliefs ultimately lead to your results. A lot of people don't ever think to that level of themselves. So take inventory. Find out what you believe, because that is driving the results you're getting in your life. All right, so let's move on to the next thing that you can do to grow your business. And that is understanding personalities and hiring A players.
Now, this is an area where Dave and I have some different perspectives. And that's what I love, because Dave has found a lot of success in building larger organizations and teams, and I found a lot of success being more of a solopreneur. But no matter what you are or which you prefer, the skills of understanding people's personalities and hiring the right people, whether employees or subcontractors or choosing partners, these are critical to your success for sure. And so one of the biggest questions, I apologize, that was on me, guys. So one of the biggest thing we got on here is, why don't my employees think like me? And that was the biggest challenge I used to bang my head against a wall with is, gosh, man, what do you how many of you ever thought, looking at your employees, like, what are you thinking? Why don't you think more like me? But the simple truth is, if they thought like you, they wouldn't be working for you. They'd be running their own company. And so you're the entrepreneur. You're the leader. That's part of the deal, is you need to lead them. And so they're never going to think like you. There's never going to get a rival point where, gosh, okay, I'm just going to set it and forget it. It doesn't work that way. And so that fantasy of, gosh, I can just, have these clones go out there and clone me. No, 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 no. And so if you're not maximizing the personalities of your employees, I mean, you're missing out. It's not more of you. That's not what's needed. And so for me, personally, what I realized is, after many challenges and bad hires and this and that, is that for me, the solopreneur model works so much better, and that I would rather contract with other entrepreneurs than lead employees. And once I started to do that, my business skyrocketed, because I specifically created a model that could function that way. And so understanding the different personality types allows you to fill in the gaps with your employees or your subcontractors or your partnerships. And also, the biggest personality I needed to understand was myself. That's when I had the biggest aha, was understanding myself and my own personality. Now, here's what's cool, because a lot of us have been exposed to different personality stuff and DISC and all that, but Dave has a unique and powerful way to look at personalities. It's an instant download and so fast and tangible. It's incredible. Dave, take us through it, please.
Will do, man. So yes, I have found kind of a different way of looking at personalities that kind of really resonates and helps people to understand themselves and others around them. And really that unique way is, I use animals. So understanding personalities and how you can fit them into the different areas of your business, your life, where you fit in as a personality type, how you interact with other personality types, is absolutely one of the most critical things you can do to succeed in your business. And so there's 4 personality types. Those of you that have probably seen a DISC before, D-I-S-C, those exist out there. You can actually go take a test. It'll tell you what type that you are. But it's easier to understand for me with animals. I can point and say, hey, it's, this person's that type of animal and that one. So the first one that we have is the lion. Okay, the lion, think about this, it's the dominant personality. It's the go-getter. It's the person who's short on details and just wants to get to the point and wants to get things done, right? That's the lion. And so, some of you on this listening may be lions. You may be saying, yeah, that's me, right? That gets to the next personality type, and that's the otter. The otter's the life of the party. They love to have fun. They love to run around. They love to be liked, right? They they get hurt very easily if people don't like them. If somebody unlikes them on Facebook, they have a real problem with it. But they're also some of the best people for energizing an organization, for especially like in a sales role or something like that. Really, a go-getter, an otter, or somebody who really has a great personality and dealing with people, is great for that sort of thing. So that's the otter. The next one is the golden retriever. So these are the steady eddies. These are the people that are always there by your side, reliable, consistent. They are a team player. They are going to back up your organization. They're going to back up you. So these are great people for service type roles and things like that, right? They're always there. You can always count on them. And then you've got the owl, right? And the owl is more reserved, more studious, more, wants to know the details and wants to understand all of the different items before moving forward with a decision. You see this a lot in maybe like a finance role and things like that, where you really want somebody who's meticulous. So, now that the pictures are in your head, you can start to say to yourself, as you look across your organization or people hey, there's a lion, there's an otter, and, that sort of thing. But understanding the personalities and how they relate is really, really important. So, for example, a lion who's really, really dominant, okay, can really put off an otter because they can overpower them and they can hurt their feelings very easy if they're too dominant over them, right? Vice versa, an otter can drive a owl nuts because they're nonstop, they're jumping all over the place, they don't stay on one topic very long, and, the owl doesn't like that. They like to stay methodical and everything. Golden retriever can work very well with a lion, right? A golden retriever who's, very consistent, very steady, very much loyal, right? Can work very well with a more dominant personality that needs somebody like that to complement them and help get things done. So you can kind of start to see how these things fit in. And as you look across your life or your organization, you can say, hey, we need an owl here, we need an otter here, or, for that role, we need a lion, we need to find one and put it in there. And so it's just a different way of looking at personalities, but it really resonates as you think of them that way. Now I want to talk about hiring A players. Okay, so hiring is probably one of the top 2 to 3 most critical things that you can do to succeed in your business. A great hire can help you grow tremendously, and a poor hire can cost you twice as much as it was to employ them and set you backwards. So with that said, there's 3 critical components that have developed over the years for hiring an A player. And some of them seem like common sense, but there's some very important lessons to learn with them. The first one is to be deliberate about your hiring. You'll be amazed at how many companies and how many people are not deliberate about their hiring. And what I mean by that, if you are a small business owner or a business owner, how many times have you come into the office and if you have an assistant or you just look at your calendar and it says an interview, maybe it's at noon. And you're like, oh, crap, I got an interview today. I didn't even know it. All right. Yeah, I've got all this work to do, everything else. And so what happens is you don't do any preparation for it whatsoever. You go into the interview, you spend 45 minutes, you ask your standard questions, and you check the box, and you move on, you get the interview over with. A lot of people approach it that way. And you're looking at bringing somebody into your family. You're looking at bringing somebody into your world. You're looking at bringing somebody in that can really complement your culture, that can really make a huge difference in the growth and success. You have to be deliberate about it. You have to plan ahead. In fact, for every interview that I do, I probably spend twice as much time preparing for it. Looking through their resume, looking through what they've done online, looking at their LinkedIn profile, coming up with questions really to understand who they are, what type of personality they are, all of that, so I can really find out who this person is and make them tick. And that's what being deliberate about hiring is. So it's up to you how you want to do this in your life, but if you aren't somebody who is planning and preparing for those that you are hiring and the interviews that you have, that's something that you need to institute immediately, something that you need to do it in your way for your business, but you need to do it. And one way to help you with that is to create a good, solid screening process. How many times have you had an interview where it was just a waste of time, right? It was just a dud, essentially. They did their best sales job in the resume, right? And so having a good, solid screening process takes a lot of that headache out of the way and helps to filter down to the specific people that really make sense to interview. And so the way that a lot of people do this is like a phone screen, or at least some sort of thing that the prospect or the interviewee has to fill out ahead of time that answers some very specific questions and gives some very specific things for them to do. Some of these are just tests that people do, like it tells them to do certain things. If the person doesn't do it, they don't make it through the interview process. They don't make it to the interview. But having some way to screen, to kind of filter down ahead of time is really, really important. And I actually have a paper, a blog post that I wrote on this, and I'll send it out with the recording when we're done today, so that you can read through it, where I go into detail on some of the things that we do at GRASP and some of the other organizations I work with. But if you don't have a screening process in place, start thinking about what you could put in place to help you with that. And then the last thing is to make the interview a conversation with one little secret. A lot of recruiters and different groups will tell you that in today's age, you got to sell the person on being, you know, part of your company. You're selling them as much as they're selling you. And I have to say, I kind of disagree with that. And where I disagree with that is that a lot of people do this bang-up job selling their company, but they don't tell the truth about the role and the challenges and stuff that come with it. So for me, I'm really brutally honest in interviews. You know, I tell people this will be the hardest job that you've ever had. This will be one of the toughest things that you've ever done. Now, I will tell them that it can be one of the most rewarding things that they've ever done, but I paint the real picture of what to expect, and I tell them, look, sleep on it, think about it. You know, this has to be the absolute best home for you. If you have one reservation, don't move forward, because I know the cost of a bad hire, and I know what it's like to implement a new hire and only 3 months later have to ask them to leave. Or have them leave because they're not the right fit. And so make it a really great conversation where you really do dive deep down, second, third, fourth, fifth level questions with what you want to know and understand about them, especially around their personality and all of that, but also be brutally honest with what the role is and what they're doing and what they're getting into. And after that, if they still are really excited about coming on board, it's a great test. You know, you've got the the right person. So, Evan, I know you have some thoughts that you want to add here as well. So please go ahead.
Absolutely, Dave. So for me, real quick, some of the greatest lessons I've learned in hiring is the classic adage of hiring nice. Because the simple truth is you can't train nice. You can't train patience. You can't train an otter to be an owl, as Dave talked about. And most importantly, this is key, you can't train integrity. I used to think if I could just, I'll just hire this person and mold them, and all the personal growth and all the skills and tools that I've had, I'll just mold them into this. But it's too late. By the time you're hiring somebody, they're already set. What you can train is skills, but you cannot train integrity. You cannot train nice. So depending on the position and where you want to put that person, you have to hire that. And so I would focus on, again, hiring the integrity, hiring a growth-orientated person, because then you can train the skills that they need. The other two quick ones I want to share, these are billion-dollar hiring secrets from Zappos, from Tony Hsieh. And number one, this is, a lot of people don't know this, but for a majority of the people that interview at Zappos, people fly in, they pick them up at the airport, they bring them in, they interview, they take them back. A lot of people don't know is that the interview process starts with the Uber driver, or so they think. Because what happens after the interview and after the person gets dropped back off at the airport, Zappos brings in the driver who picked them up from the airport and drove them back, and they ask the driver to say, hey, what do you think of this person? Do you think they're a good fit? What did they expose to you? Because they could see kind of who that person really is, because when they're on their best behavior showing up at the interview. So the driver played a key part in that. And I was like, wow, that's impressive. And number three is the thing that Zappos does is they actually pay people not to take the job. As of the last time I looked, Zappos would actually put people through a 2-week training period. I mean, think about that. For a lot of small business owners, 2-week training period, it's like, hey, I'm thinking about 2 hours here. But after a 2-week training period, they give the person $2,000 and say, here's $2,000 to not work here. Now, for many of you listening, depending on the size of your company, $2,000 may be like, hey, I can't afford that. But just think about that as a takeaway. What carrot could you dangle out there to make sure, that you're getting that A player? Because obviously if they take the money or they take the carrot, they're not a good fit for you. So again, I would encourage you to just really think about that and say, hey, if I can't offer $2,000, what could I offer for them not to take the job? Because you're saving tenfold up front from avoiding a bad hire by doing that. So again, use that as a takeaway. Think what you could do to get that A player.
It's such an important topic, and I really do wish that we had more time for it. But we have to get to our third strategy for growing your business, and that's a strategy that Evan and I call winning in the margins. And so Evan and I have found and seen with other high performers over the years that the majority of the time, it's not so much that they do one thing exponentially better than others, but they do a lot of little things, in a lot of ways just a little bit better. And when those things are added up, they create a huge competitive advantage. And so, that's what we call winning in the margin. So for this section, we're going to go a little more rapid fire and give you some of the specific ways that you can win in the margins in your business. So, my friend, Evan, you have the floor.
All right. So winning in the margins, quick hitters. So we're just going to go boom, boom, boom. So you've heard this before. We're going to put it in a different context. So attitude is infectious. It is the most, rampant thing out there. A great attitude, and a bad attitude, ultra infection. There's no competition against it. So for me to keep my attitude up, I'm either up or I'm getting up. It's one of the two. And I still to this day get a lot of hang-ups on my voicemail. For a long time, I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, man, why are these people listening to the message and then hanging up? Until one day I actually caught, the phone didn't allow him to hang up. I caught one of my clients, and he kind of got sheepish and shy, and it was like, then they finally explained to me, they were like, Ev, when I'm having a bad day, I just call your voicemail because it cheers me up. I was like, man, call anytime you want. And so the simple truth is, people buy from happy people, and they buy a lot more from happy people. And Zappos, as we talked about earlier, is $1 billion a year company that proves that. Now, another quick one is revive. Here's a way to win in the margins is to actually revive and create a no-tech bedroom. If you want the best sex of your life and you want a great night's sleep, get the TV and your cell phone out of the bedroom. Get the tech out. Then when you wake up, instead of looking at your phone, why don't you look at a picture of your goals instead, or read something positive to start the day? From my faith-based friends, get into a scripture instead of getting into your phone. So the next quick hitter, ask better questions. The better questions you ask, the better life you have. And I'm talking about asking the questions of yourself. So instead of things like, why am I so fat? You could ask yourself, how can I use this? That's one of the greatest questions you can ask. Of course, not when everything's going right, but when things aren't, you can just say, how can I use this? Or what can I learn here? So when you find yourself in a challenging situation, for me, possibly on traffic in the freeway, and I'm losing it a little bit, and I can say, wow, what can I learn here? Yeah, I could probably learn a little patience. Here's a good time to practice some breathing exercises to get through this. Last one, the magic mirror. I love the magic mirror. First thing in the morning, you're out of bed, you're into the mirror, take a dry erase pen and write this on your mirror. What's the one thing I could do today to, and then fill in the blank, to grow my business, to bring me closer to my dream, to improve my relationship? Just one thing. You can start on that theme. What's the one thing I can do today to grow my business? And that starts you such a positive frame of mind. So these are just little tips here to help you win in the margins.
Awesome. I guess it's my turn now. I'll have to say, though, attitude is your inner game showing in your outer game. So talking about before where I talked about beliefs lead to your results, that it has to do with your beliefs. And when you let that negativity come over you, and recognizing that and stopping that so that you can have a good attitude and change things, because not everything's ever going to go our way. Throughout the day, you can be on high to the low and everything as entrepreneurs, right? It's the roller coaster, but we do have control over our attitude. So that's a great one. I love that. Depending on the role you play in your business, no matter what you're in sales. So here's something that you can do to help yourself from a sales standpoint. Take time to do one more call or follow-up, because the fortune is always in the follow-up, each day, or teach your teams to do so. That's 365 more calls and follow-ups per year, which easily leads to more business and sales. If you have a team of 5 on your sales team, that's almost 15 or over 1,500 more calls and follow-ups per year. Now, you know your margins, so how many times you got to talk to somebody to sell something. So think about what that could do for you. Cut 1 hour of TV time out at night and use it to do something productive. Just that one thing gives you 365 more hours per year, or about 15 extra days. You could create a whole online business in that time. Network saves legwork. Make it a point to grow your personal network and relationships. It's amazing how many times you're just 1 to 2 people removed from who you want to connect with. So make the extra effort to connect with people and build your network. Choose your relationships more wisely. Think about who you surround yourself with. Are they more successful than you? Do they challenge you to reach higher levels? Spend your precious time where it makes a difference for you. Accelerate your learning curve. Network, and income, and do your income potential a favor by joining or creating a mastermind group. And for those of you that don't know mastermind group, it's a group of people that are highly successful in the different areas that they're focused in, that come together and help share their best secrets, tactics, and ways of being successful. So there you can learn from top people in their areas and what's working, what's not, without having to go through it all by yourself. Now, entrepreneurship is tough enough as it is, right? We don't need to go it alone. So that will help speed up your success. And then as a bonus for you, make it a point to fine-tune one skill. And this could actually work in conjunction with what Evan was saying about writing on your mirror every morning. The one thing you need to get better at is, right? So fine-tune one skill that you know is essential to your success. Be obsessed with being the best at it and work on it each day until you feel you've mastered it. Even if it's 5 minutes a day, right? Do it till you've mastered it, and then go do it again with another. There are tons of other of these, out there, and you're probably thinking of some now. And the idea was just to get your mind thinking about where can you win in the margins. And after this webinar, though, definitely set some time. Look at how you can win in the margins in your life, your business. Make some plans to do so. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So change some things up. Change some things up to where you want to go. Remember, it's the little things that make the biggest difference. Okay, now it's time for Evan to actually cover one of his favorite topics, which is the balanced lie and the home court advantage.
All right, and of course, you don't want to leave out the trap that catches most business owners and how we can avoid it. Now, I know time-wise, we're going to have to squeeze here so we can get it in. So I know you've all got primed listening ears. So I'm going to start with the trap here. What is the trap that catches most business owners? And that trap is, dun, 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 drum roll, it's not having platinum relationships. That's right, a platinum relationship. Now, obviously, we think platinum's more, valuable than gold. So it's about having a platinum relationship. And just the one quick one I want to cover today is a relationship that is most neglected by most entrepreneurs. And so one of the most neglected relationships I see is with your vendors, not with your vendor's top sales guy. A lot of people think, oh, yeah, I got to have a great relationship with the sales guy so I can get good deals. No, it's with the vendors that you choose, their accounts receivable department. So the people that you're ordering from or working with, when it comes down to payment, them collecting payment from you, that's who you want to have the greatest relationship with. And so I invest heavily in that area. And not too long ago, I landed the largest military contract I ever had. It was, kind of the big jump. It's all right, our company's taking the big jump. Here we go. And I needed to place a massive order. So, of course, my sales guy was all excited. But I needed some extended terms. I needed to get out, 60 to 90 days. And so because the size of this order was so huge, it was like, well, I need to, check. We need to have a meeting and da-da-da. And come to find out, I didn't find this till afterward, but come to find out, they had a big meeting, a staff meeting, and one of the agenda items was, should we approve this order for Evan? And unbeknownst to me, they declined it. And at that moment, the owl, the AR gal, stood up in the meeting, drew her sword, and kind of had it out with the president of the company for 5 minutes. And she went on and on saying, oh my gosh, you don't understand who Evan is. He's one of the greatest guys, and he's the best account ever, and we need more customers like him. And if anyone deserves extra terms, it's him. And I didn't even ask her to do this. I didn't even know. It just went through. And then I found this out later. And so it was because I had that platinum relationship. And it wasn't that, oh, I took her out to dinner once a week and I bought her all these presents. It was just I invested in her as a person and actually caring about her as a person. And so I invested in that platinum relationship, and it paid tremendous, tremendous dividends. So the next one I want to go into is the balance lie. So the balance line. Again, we're going rapid fire here for time constraints to keep you going. So the balance line business. I mean, there's people, and I don't want to put them down, but there's people that have seminars, books, they have a whole brand built around life-work balance. And as an entrepreneur, the reality is that's a lie. There is no work-life balance as an entrepreneur. It doesn't exist. It simply does not exist. And it finally came to me one day as I took my kids for some, we wanted to have a different type of quality experience. So we took them to the Philharmonics, and we got in front of the symphony, and we're like, okay, let's see how long they're going to last. You know, the goal was to make it to intermission. And so I started counting the instruments, and I was like, wow, there's like 8 violinists, and there's only 1 tuba, or there's only 1 cymbal, there's only 2 of these, and yet I started looking at the size of the instruments and the sounds they make, and everything was totally unbalanced. There was zero balance whatsoever in this whole orchestra. And then I finally realized, but when they get all on the same page, and they actually start creating a harmony. So the whole goal is not to seek balance because it doesn't exist. The goal is to seek harmony because in your life, you're the conductor and you're the composer. You get to write your own notes. You get to compose it. And so the biggest mistake you can make is trying to model your life after somebody else. Like, well, you know, I got to leave the office at this time and I got to get here. I got to do it like this guy. No, you get to create the notes. You can borrow some notes from me. You can borrow some notes from Dave. You can borrow some notes from other mentors, but you get to write your own music. So for me, I found my harmony as a solopreneur and someone who has a home office, homeschools my kids, and that gives me the freedom and time to romance my bride throughout the day and chase my kids around and, you know, and do all that. And some people go, oh my gosh, that's not harmony for me. You know, I can't handle being around my kids and my bride that much. Great. You figure out what your harmony is. But that's the key. There is no balance. You're just creating harmony and understanding, hey, sometimes the notes are going to be high, sometimes they're going to be low, but just creating that harmony is key and knowing that you get to write it. Nobody else controls you but you. You get to be the composer and the conductor. So next, after the Super Bowl, the big game's coming up, right? It's going to be, that's the next national holiday. The Super Bowl comes up, and after that, kind of all eyes turn to basketball. So I want to dive in real quick to the home court advantage, just really quick, this home court advantage. And this is something that was taught to me by Zig Ziglar decades ago, and I want to pass it on to you. Again, in sports, we all hear about, gosh, it's the home court advantage. Just get the home court advantage or the home stadium or the home team. And if you can get this, your business is going to grow exponentially when you lock in your home court advantage. So the first thing I want to really dive into is change this mindset that you really can be married and live happily ever after. So this wasn't modeled for me. I mean, like most of you listening, I was raised in a normal dysfunctional family. And so I started looking around and saying, gosh, I wonder how other people are living. How else can I do this? And all I saw were 3 options. I saw that you could be married and miserable. I saw you could be divorced and desperate. And I saw you could be single and cynical. And so that's all there was. And I was like, there has to be a better way. So going back to the balance law, I said, you know what? I'm going to get my own sheet of paper and I'm going to write my own music. And instead of married and miserable, I want to be married and marvelous. Okay? I don't want to be like all the, you know how married people in public. You can tell people are married in public because they're the ones that aren't touching each other. And I was like, I don't want to live that way. I want to be married and marvelous. And so we changed the mindset because the state of California where I got married doesn't govern my marriage. It's my mindset that governs my marriage. So I said, hey, I can live a different way. So I'm here to help you get the home court advantage, realize, hey, you can change the mindset and say, you know what, I'm going to be married to Marvelous. Now, when it comes to divorce and desperate, we've all been to the supermarket. We've all been to the checkout counter. We all read those magazines, right? They all different faces, but the magazine's the same. All the women's magazines, right? How to get a man, how to keep a man, how to get rid of a man. It's just this endless cycle. And that's why divorce is so devastating, is because it ends the story. The pictures come down, the love stories end, and the kids become very insecure. Drugs, alcohol, pornography, these are all fueled by insecurity. And I'm not judging you or make you feel bad if you've been divorced, because just the opposite. I've got a friend who's been married and divorced 5 times before her 35th birthday. Oh, you got to work to do that. And when it wasn't until she finally took responsibility and said, hey, maybe I need to change something, that's when everything started to change for her. And she changed her mindset. In her 6th marriage, she's been married 30 years, has amazing grandchildren, and is living happily ever after. And so it is possible no matter where you are. And lastly, the single and cynical mindset. And that's where I was. Because I was like, well, what's the point? I'll just do the Playboy lifestyle. That was it for me. But the challenge with that is it's empty calories. You become obese on pleasure, and at the same time, you're starving for love. Just like Hugh Hefner. A lot of people don't know Hugh Hefner was raised in an ultra-strict, ultra-toxic religious home, and his mother never touched him. She never gave him any physical affection. It was no hugs, no kisses, nothing. No wonder he went that route. And not too long ago, my bride and I got invited to this super-duper celebrity A-list gala at the Playboy Mansion of all places. And this was the last big hurrah. So we went just out of curiosity, and it was a great event. All the A-listers were there and all that stuff. But not too long after that event, Hugh Hefner died. And this whole legacy, this whole arc for Hugh Hefner was he simply died a lonely old man who just wanted love, who just wanted to live happily ever after. So if you find yourself in that single and cynical mindset, I just want to encourage you, believe in better for yourself. Happily ever after is out there. So the home court advantage is investing in the greatest relationship of all. The greatest platinum relationship of all is that of your spouse. So in order for things to change, you have to change. In order for things to grow, you have to grow. In order for things to improve, like your marriage, like your relationships, you have to improve. And that's why my bride and I remarry in a different state or country every year, because it's a chance for me to improve. Now, I'll be fully transparent. The biggest room in my house is the room for improvement. And so I just want to encourage you guys and gals on this call is to maximize the home court advantage. Dial into those relationships, because when you have the home court advantage, you are unstoppable. And getting a home court advantage, dial in and do it and watch what happens in your life. So Dave, back over to you so you can tell us how to get more done, create more freedom, and take back control.
Thank you, sir. Always love when you talk about that. I know it's a topic that not a lot of people talk about or hear about. It always shocks you into thinking differently and stuff. So awesome stuff, man. Productivity skills are one of the most highly searched and sought after on the web these days. There's a reason for this. With the ever-increasing bombardment of things in our lives, the 24/7 demand of business throughout the world, people are increasingly feeling like they are falling behind and, looking for ways to find leverage. And this is an area that I have been almost obsessed with for many years, because the truth is, in some ways, I'm pretty lazy. And people on this call that know me are probably looking at the screen going, what are you talking about? You run marathons, you go from 5:30 in the morning, nonstop all day, and so on. And that's true. But at this point, I'm also an integral part of 3 large and rapidly growing entities. And that brings me back to the fact that I am lazy. I want to get the most done in the least amount of time. I want to create the most money and opportunity for the right amount of efforts and no more. I don't want to waste a second, because I can never, ever get it back. I can never get the last minute back with all of you. I can never get back the day away from my wife and daughter when I travel, and I'm not getting younger. And because of this, I am a control freak. And, you hear that and, picture in your mind, but it's not in the traditional sense. In fact, when we're done today, I think you're all going to want to be control freaks as well. I want to have control over everything that I can. I want to control my wealth, my health, my relationships, my life, everything, because if I don't, that means I'm ceding control to someone or something else. And put that way, do you think it's right to give control over aspects of your life away? I think you'd say no, of course not. And there's just so much that I'd like to cover with you on this topic, but because of time, I am going to teach you one thing that you can do to get more done, one thing you can do to create more freedom in your life, and one thing you can do to take back control in your life. So, ready? This is something I'm really excited to share with you today. All right, so the first thing, let's talk about creating more freedom. This starts with taking ownership of your life and, most importantly, your time. Remember, if you don't have ownership and control, that means you're giving it to someone or something else. So I want you to take away a mantra that now says, I will own my time. Okay? So the next thing that you want to do, though, once you have taken ownership of your time, is train others to respect your time. Okay, so you have to train others to respect your time and to know when you're available for them and when not. So let me give you an example of this. Okay, this is a week schedule of mine 3 months out from now. So all of this is programmed and everything in my calendar, and I know it looks crazy, but if you look at it more closely, you're going to see there's actually me taking some ownership and putting that around things that I need to do to be most successful first before others can get a chance at getting any of my time. So as you can see, I start each day at the same time. This is a very critical thing in your life. If you want to have more energy, you want to be more consistent in everything, wake up at the same time every day. In fact, do it on weekends as well. It's one of the biggest secrets of some of the highest performers, The Rock, everybody you'll ever talk to. So I start my day at the same time. I have breakfast, and I have a little prime ritual that I go through. On some days, I may have a meeting after that, but if you notice, every morning I am blocked from 8 to 10:30 a.m. for mental and physical focus time. This is when I spend my time thinking strategically, and I also hit the gym because I know that typically about that time during the day, mid-morning, is when I start to get a little tired. I get my first kind of lull, if you will, and going and working out and hitting the gym shocks me out of that and energizes me for the rest of the day. You'll also notice that I have certain days where I have blocked time out, which is where for me to use to schedule specific appointments that I need to do, such as finalizing deals, meetings with strategic partners, getting together with my buddy Evan Money to create a killer webinar presentation, and so on. Then lastly, every evening from 6 p.m. is my family focus. So there's very little time for other meetings, and so this does a few things. First, it allows me to train my teams to be self-sufficient and be able to operate without me. That's one of the number one things you can do to grow your business. In fact, I've often said to my business partners, the day that we are not needed is the best day of our lives because the business will have the systems and leadership in place to continue growing without us. And then second, people know that if they are going to take one of my open times, it better be for an important reason. And then lastly, it provides a structure that can be counted on and not only for myself, but those I work with. And that brings us to the next point, which is around getting more done. And as I just alluded to, structure equals freedom. Structure is freedom. My days are set. I get all my work done in that time. I'm not working all hours of the day. The structure I've created allows me to get more done and be focused from the time I wake up to the time I'm finished. Now, there's one more secret that's incredibly simple yet powerful that's part of all of this, and that is that I plan each and every single day. Even though my calendar has set things, I take the time to list out everything I have going on for that day. And this allows me to put in other items I may need to do alongside my structured time. So that key, that planning, really is the most critical part of it all. It's been studied and shown that it's one of the most important productivity habits in the world. Now, here's another little secret to planning your day. And I can tell you from experience that I used to plan my day the morning of, but then I started planning it the night before. And Oh my gosh, this is one of the biggest miracle differences I have ever seen, and for anybody who's ever done both, they'll tell you the same thing. One of my good friends is Craig Ballantyne. He runs Early to Rise. He wrote one of the best-selling books on productivity and everything that's out there, and this is one of his mainstays, his cornerstones of the whole productivity solution that he teaches. And really, here's why. As you end your day, the day before, everything from the day is fresh in your head. Okay, the remaining tasks you need to do, the follow-up calls, the items that are all swirling around through your head. When you take 15 minutes just to get them down on paper and write out what you need to do for the next day alongside them, it not only brings a great level of clarity, and that's a place you can get clarity to you, but also get your subconscious thinking about the things that you need to be working on even while you're sleeping. Another added benefit is that when you wake up in the AM, you just have to hit the ground running. Everything's ready to go. You don't have to stop and think what you need to do for the day or anything, right? You just go. And so it just lets you start rocking your list to get things done. So here's what I would tell you to do. I know a lot of people, when I first tell them this or show them this, they all laugh at me and they say, there's no way it makes that big of a difference. Try it for 1 week. Just 1 week. Plan your day. Take 15 minutes at the end of your day. Plan the next day out for yourself. And watch what happens and the change it makes in your life. It is really, again, it's almost a miracle for some people. All right, so let's talk about taking back control. So as you probably can tell from some of the things I have on the screen and from the things we talked about, there is some certain things that you can do to help really take back control of your life. And I've been studying and spending a lot of time figuring out the ultimate key things people need to do to maintain success at high levels. And I've studied a lot of the people I've interviewed, studied a lot of people that I work with, studied a lot of other greats that are out there. And it hasn't really been clicking till this past year when I truly had to figure out and break down and figure out and narrow it down. And it really is the three things you see on the screen. Be disciplined, be consistent, be persistent. This applies to almost anything in your life. Discipline. You saw my schedule, right? Discipline. I get up, it's scheduled, I do it. I do the things that I don't want to do, even though I know I need to do them. So being disciplined, being able to say, I don't want to do that, but I'm going to because I know I need to do that. That's important, right? The next one, being consistent. Now, you can be disciplined for one day, but that's not going to do you any good. You have to be consistent. So that means day in, day out, continuing that discipline and doing it without fail, right? We're not perfect. We'll have bad days and off days, but over time, because this is a long-term view, right? I think a lot of people, they overestimate what they can accomplish in a week and underestimate what they can accomplish in a year. And it's a very powerful mantra or thing to think about as you do things. So be consistent, long-term. Be disciplined with your consistency. And then lastly, be persistent. You can be very disciplined. You can be consistent in your discipline. But if you hit barriers and roadblocks and you just stay there and you keep being disciplined and consistent and never doing what needs to be done to get over that roadblock and persist through it, then you can't grow. So persistence is the third element that you have to have. So ask yourself in your life, right? Where can I be more disciplined? What things can I do that I know I need to do? And what can I be doing more consistently that I know will contribute to my success? And what's the one major roadblock or the major thing that I'm hitting up against right now that I need to persist through? So really take these three things to heart, and you add these things up that I just talked about, and it will make a huge difference for your life and for how you manage yourself and taking back control of everything. So, all right. Brings us to the questions.
Q&A. Here we go. Now is the time. Let your voice be heard. And those burning questions, those, hey, Evan and Dave, tell me about this. I have to know about that. What is it that you are dying to know? Dave and I will be more than happy to give you the best answer we have before we get into the final section in the giveaway. Woo-hoo! So one question coming in, Dave, is how did you trim down, you talked about being this, this entrepreneur with all these different businesses. How did you trim down to those two? How did you decide where to go? Because there's so many shiny objects.
Yeah, so for me, when I went through that, I really looked at a couple things. Again, there's no way to have full clarity. So I said, all right, what are the things that I actually enjoy about these different ones? Which ones do I enjoy being in the most? So that helped me narrow it down pretty quickly to about half of them. And then from there, I said, well, which ones out of these do really have the most opportunity, have the most legs, and what have the most leverage, right? And so from leverage, for me means doing more with less. And so as I looked at some of those were very much like I had to be doing it all the time to make it work, and if I wasn't there, it couldn't survive. And so I said, well, I got to take those ones out because that's really just creating a job for myself. And so what I was left with were things that really systems could be built around and everything that really made sense and that had that ability to be really leveraged and grow, and that I was really passionate about. So that's how I did it.
Got it. Got it. All right. Next one, I'm going to go ahead and answer. They want to know, do I really get remarried in a different state or country? And the answer is absolutely yes. And a lot of people wonder, well, how do you guys afford that? And how does that all work? And so it's not about, oh, they have to be these big, giant, stressful, amazing things, because that's most people's first wedding. After you do it a couple times, it is fun. It's exciting. It's easy. It becomes very unique. I've done weddings at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We've done weddings. The last one we did a bikini wedding on the beach. So they don't have to be these big, giant, amazing affairs. It's just about creativity and having some fun. So Dave, so we can respect everybody's time, let's move right into the final portion and we can wrap it all up.
Excellent. So let's do that. So, all right, as I mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, we are having a one-of-a-kind of event at the end of February called Grow, Thrive, and Revive at the beautiful 5-star Terranea Resort in Rancho Palos Verdes, which is right outside LA in California. We're going to be racing Porsches, we're swimming with dolphins, and really we're teaching you how to double your business in the next 12 months. That is what we're focused on there, which is why it's only limited to 25, so that we can really spend the time with each other and have kind of a mini mastermind group. So if you liked what you learned today and you want to take it to the next level, then this may be for you. What really we covered today is the tip of the iceberg, where Grow, Thrive, and Revive is the iceberg. So we've got 3 main goals for the event. First and foremost, to give you a transformational life experience that will really take your life and business to a completely new level. And then second, to teach you the best strategies and systems for consistent high performance as an individual and in your business. And then third, to work on your business with a small group of other entrepreneurs with a focus on giving you those specific strategies that are specific for you and your business to double it over the next 12 months. So here's what's all part of that. So it's your ticket to Grow, Thrive, and Revive, 5-star venue, obviously 5-star treatment, 2 full days of training, gourmet breakfast and lunch each day. We're going to have a special Tuesday evening event, private guided dolphin tour and hike experience, Porsche racing.
Woo-hoo! So Dave, I just have to add how excited I am about this, because we're going to be at a specially built Porsche track, brand new, that will allow each of us to get behind the wheel of different types of Porsches, and we can really open them up. Plus, this is really cool, I just got confirmation that the co-founder of Billabong USA and Hurley will be joining us for the seminar portion of the event, so we can ask questions and pick his brain. It's going to be spectacular.
Yeah, man, I know you're so excited about this. I keep hearing about it. You've actually been there and stuff, so I can't wait. And then you can see the rest of the stuff. We have a private 1-hour coaching session with David, Evan and I post-event. And then we're actually giving over $5,000 in additional bonuses. And we're doing all of this, wrapping it all up for $39.97. So it's really, a great deal. But for those on today, we're actually doing something really cool. We're offering $1,000 off the registration and allowing you to bring a guest for free. So not only is it 2 for the price of 1, but you also get it for about 25% off, which is $29.97. And if you're interested in that, you can go to www.growthriverevive.com/register-1000. We'll send this out to those that are interested into it afterwards. But again, it's growthriverevive.com/register-1000. It's right there on your screen.